I consider myself a very big fan of the original Re-Animator film from 1985, the Stuart Gordon film. It's something I've watched multiple times, too many to count at this point, but I mean, it's a horror classic, essential for any horror fan. So, I mean, pretty much kind of undisputed horror legend, I would say. But I had just, for whatever reason, I'd never seen its sequel, Bride of Reanimator. Up until very recently, of course, during this summer, I was actually able to watch it the first time, and funnily enough, I was able to watch it during a broadcast of the last drive-in, the Joe Bob Briggs program, which I'd also never seen before. So it was my first time watching Bride of Reanimator and Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. So that was pretty cool. Joe Bob, I guess it's maybe more of an American thing, but now they have him on Shutter, so it's a lot more accessible of a show. So that was really cool. Like intervening throughout the films, like, we got two beheadings, we got one knife through the head, we have one dismemberment. I don't know, all this kind of stuff. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Kind of perfect for Reanimator fare. And just last night I watched again, not the broadcast, but just like the movie itself on its own. So having watched it now twice, I'm pretty confident in saying it's definitely something I want to continue watching with regularity over again. It's a really good movie, and I mean, I would say it's actually pretty appropriate to kind of like do like a back-to-back thing with the original, like because it is a continuing story. It's actually fairly seamless in how it does continue from the first film. Like they get the core cast back. Like the boys are back. We got Dr. Herbert West, that's Jeffrey Combs, and Dr. Dan Kane, Bruce Abbott. They're back. This is sometime after the first movie. The ending of that, of course, there's chaos in the morgue, and uh, we had the reanimated corpses all over the place, and kind of ends tragically with Dan's girlfriend Meg dying, and it's kind of like ambiguous a little bit. But like we pick up here, and they're in Peru. They're volunteering, as hospital aides during a civil war, which is really just their guys to do more research and kind of follow through on those wacky experiments even further, and learn a little bit more on what they're doing. Kind of the intention is to go a little bit further than what they had been doing before. Not just reanimate dead tissue, not just bring the dead back to life, but to create life. So that's kind of the goal with this film, as you can imagine from a title like Bride of Reanimator. There is going to be a bride that they create. So essentially, they've learned nothing from the first movie, which is fine. But it's a good continuation, and kind of brings all the patented Reanimator stuff that you'd expect. Uh, plus a little bit more. I mean, like there's a lot of oddities in this film, like kind of more gruesome experiments that take place. Like fingers attached to an eyeball, and a dog with a human arm, and crazy, crazy stuff like that. And of course, we have the return of kind of the the antagonist, or Dr. West's rival from the first film, Dr. Hill, who's still a severed head, but he's kind of able to make his way back onto the scene, and kind of I don't know, sort of corrupt this other doctor who discovers him, Dr. Graves, and has vengeance on his mind. And I don't know, I guess has some hard feelings about how Dr. West left him, so he's on the path for revenge. And of course, there's other stuff going on plot wise. There's a detective whose wife was involved with the tragedy of the first film. He has kind of a personal vendetta. He's kind of sniffing around West and Kane a little bit, and there's a few love interests actually for Doctor Kane, Dan, uh, where like Doctor West is like, don't think with your little head, think with your big head, and meanwhile he's kind of becoming uh, enamored with a patient who's terminal, according to West, who reminds him of Meg, and he kind of has this connection to her, but also kind of getting to know this woman they met back in their volunteer days, the beautiful Fabiana Udenino, or Udenio, I should say. She's a love interest in this film. Well, of course, you may recognize her, forever to be known as a lot of vagina from Austin Powers. I was watching. I was like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." Yeah, so she's in the film. There's little blocks along the way in their experience, but West is laser focused. He wants to continue with his experiments and play God, I guess, and further develop his reagent, the famously green glowing serum that brings death back to life and creates new life. And yeah, what they're doing, they're creating a bride, a reanimator. Simple as that. I mean, it may as well embrace the Frankenstein comparison. Like, of course, this is loosely based on H.P. Lovecraft, but of course, people are going to make Frankenstein comparisons, so may as well go with it, and they do. And that's the main goal of these two characters. Of course, West is very determined to follow through this experiment. Dan is kind of kicking along the way, but he's kind of being seduced, as was the case kind of with the first film, and what they had done kind of in the interim between films is that whatever ultimately happened to Meg, she didn't survive, but they kept her heart. So what do you love about her, Dan? Her heart. So they've kept that, and they're going to put it into this new body assembled from different body parts. I guess try to create the perfect woman. I think the feet are feet of a ballet dancer. The legs are the legs of a prostitute. The arms are of a waitress. One hand is from a lawyer, the other from a murderess, and the womb of a virgin. So I guess that's their idea, or at least West's idea of the perfect woman. And of course, Meg's heart is involved as well. So that's the goal. But things don't go so smoothly, don't go so perfectly, as seems to be the case this second time around, learning nothing from the first. So we have the detective on their case. We have Dr. Hill on the path to vengeance, and also kind of adding to some danger is that from that night, all those maybe years, months, I'm not quite sure. They don't give a timeline. But from that fateful night, there were survivors who had gotten the serum, and they're kind of like locked away in this sort of like, happy time hospital where they're just kind of writhing around and psychosis and foaming at the mouth and stuff like that. And somehow they seem to have some kind of psychic link to Dr. Hill, who's kind of able to control them and have them do his bidding, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's a cool concept, and there's just lots of great effects. Exactly what you kind of expect. I mean, they push the envelope, I would say, in terms of kind of the wacky, crazy 80s style effects, though. I mean, I guess this is a 90s movie. I mean, this is 5 years apart from the first one, 1985. And like 5 years in 80s time is an eternity, right? So, I mean, that's impressive to me that they're able to keep it so consistent in tone and in effects, and getting the original actors to return, and able to pull off something that admittedly is not as good as the original film, though. I mean, that's a tall order. That's, one of the best horror movies out there. So I mean, obviously that's an impossible thing to do. But I mean, it's definitely worthy. It's a good successor, and I find it incredibly entertaining and gruesome and fun. And during the whole thing, I just had a big dumb grin on my face because I was enjoying it so much. So definitely worth bringing into circulation with horror movie marathon watching, for sure, for sure. So if you're like me, if you happen to have, I don't know, avoided or just not had the chance to see this movie, you got to check it out. If you're a fan of the original film, it's probably on Shudder. It's probably on, a lot of streaming services now. Maybe that's why I hadn't seen it. Just because maybe it was out of print on DVD for maybe a decade or two. So, in this age of streaming, we've reanimated some long forgotten classics, and I suppose Bride of Reanimator would be one. So that's my review. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're doing 31 Days of Horror this month, October 2021. Be sure to check back for more, and until next time, stay scared.